It was late afternoon when Maya stepped into the towering building owned by her fiance Jungkook. Her body trembled slightly and tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she fought to hold them back. She hurried her towards his meeting room, her heart pounding with anxiety. She walked quickly past the employees in the building. They looked at her in confusion. Normally she would greet them with a smile, but today she did not even acknowledge their presence. She headed straight towards his meeting room in a hurry because she knew she found him there, her head down. She opened the door to his meeting room, her heart racing. She didn't notice or see the other people in the room. Her eyes were fixed directly on him, her gaze locked on Jungkook, who was sitting on the large chair, looking like a king. Her eyes were red and puffy. Evidence he was in the middle of a meeting with his subordinates, discussing important matters, when the door to the meeting room suddenly opened. He looked up and saw Anne standing in the doorway, her eyes red from crying. His heart skipped a beat when he saw her in that state. He immediately dismissed his subordinates with a wave of his hand, not taking his eyes off Vian. One of his subordinates protested. But Mr. June, we are in the middle of discussing an important deal. His expression darkened at the protest. He looked at the subordinate, his gaze cold and intimidating. Jungkook, I said get out. I don't care, he said firmly. The subordinates exchanged glances, sensing Jungkook's mood, and quickly exited the room, closing the door behind them. His expression softened as he rose from his chair and went towards Ryan. He closed the distance between them, his eyes filled with concern and care. He gently lifted her chin, making her look at him. Jungkook, what's wrong, love? She couldn't hold back her tears any longer. As he approached her, she threw her arms around him, putting her face against his chest. She clung to him desperately, her body trembling as the tears spilled over. His heart pounded in his chest as she sobbed against him. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly. Jungkook, love, why are you crying? Tell me who hurt you, and I'll send them to hell with my own hands. He asked urgently, his voice laced with anger and concern. She took a shaky breath, trying to calm herself enough to speak. She looked up at him, her eyes red and puffy. Man, it's my bully, she managed to say through her tears. His eyes darkened at her words. His protective instinct kicked in, and he tightened his hold on her. Jungkook, you're a bully, he said, his voice low and dangerous. She sniffed, trying to compose herself. She looked into his eyes, seeing the protectiveness and anger there. Man, they have been bullying me for a while now, she explained. They say mean things to me, insult me, and sometimes they even physically hurt me. His jaw clenched, his grip on her tightening even more. His protective instincts were in overdrive, and his anger flared at the thought of someone hurting Wang. Jungkook, where is this person now? He asked, his voice deadly calm. I'll make sure they never hurt you again. She shook her head, still sobbing against his chest. Why? I don't know, she said, her voice shaking. I just came straight here. I didn't look back. She clung to him tight, seeking comfort and safety in his embrace. His heart ached as he held her. He could feel the fear and pain in her trembling body. He gently stroked her hair, trying to soothe her. Jungkook, it's okay, he murmured. I won't. Jungkook, it's okay, he murmured. I won't let anyone hurt you again. He lifted her in his arm effortlessly, holding her tightly against his chest. He quickly walked out of the meeting room and into his office room. He made his way towards the large couch, sitting down with her on his lap. He curled her against his chest, his arms securely wrapped around her, providing comfort and security. He gently rocked her on his lap, his hand rubbing soothing circles on her back as she clung to him. Jungkook, shh, love, he whispered into her ear. I am here. You are safe now. You don't have to worry about anything else. He continued to murmur comforting words, assurance and declaration of love, hoping to calm her frayed nerves and soothe her rattled her. He continued to hold her, feeling her body slowly starting to relax in his embrace. After some time, he spoke up, breaking the silence. He shifted so he could look at her, his fingers gently stroking her hair as he spoke. Jungkook, why didn't you tell me that someone was bullying you? You know, I would have done anything to protect you. She looked up at him, her eyes still watery. She averted her gaze, feeling a mix of guilt and helplessness. I, I didn't want to bother you, she mumbled, her voice small and quiet. I thought I can handle it on my own. His expression hardened slightly, his grip tightening around her. Jungkook, you're not a burden, love, he said firmly. And you don't have to handle everything alone. I am here for you. Always you can always come to me when you are facing difficulties. I know, she said softly. I didn't want to worry you or make you angry. He leaned down and gently kissed her forehead, his lips lingering on her skin. Jungkook, it's alright, love, he said softly. But from now on, you have to promise me that you will tell me everything. No more hiding things from me. You refuse to bring a bodyguard. I respect your decision, but I hate it when you try to keep something from me. I want to know about everything, good or bad. She nodded her head, her body relaxing even more against his strong chest. Fine, I will, she said quietly, her face buried in his chest. I promise I will tell you everything from now on. He smiled slightly, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. He wrapped his arm around her, holding her even closer, his fingers gently stroking her back. Jungkook, good, he whispered, nuzzling his face into her hair. He looked down at her, who had fallen asleep in his arms. Her breathing was steady, and her body was relaxed despite the earlier emotional turmoil. He gently did adjust her in his lap, making sure he was comfortable. He smiled softly, feeling a mixture of protectiveness and affection for her. Carefully, he leaned back into the couch, still cradling her in his arms, and let himself relax as well. His phone pinged with a message notification, causing him to glance down at the device in his hand. As he read the message, a sly smirk appeared on his face, his eyes glimmering with a mix of satisfaction and determination. He took one more look at her, ensuring she was still asleep peacefully. Against him, he then, with careful and slowly movement, slowly shifted so he could stand up without disturbing her. He gently laid her down on the couch, making sure she was comfortable. After a moment of watching her sleep, he slightly made his way out of his office room, closing the door quietly behind him. His expression hardened, all traces of the earlier tenderness and concern gone. He walked with purpose towards the underground parking lot, his steps quick and determined. As he passed by a nearby pot, picked up a hockey stick, gripping it firmly in his hand. His jaw clenched, his eyes cold and calculating. He entered the parking area and saw a group of his men surrounding two young boys. The boys looked fearful and nervous, their eyes wide as they looked at his men. The men gripped the boy's arm tightly, preventing them from escaping. One of the men nodded to Jungkook, indicating that they had them under control. He slowly approached the group, his grip on the hockey stick tightened. He walked with an air of authority, his eyes locked on the two boys. The man backed away slightly, giving him space to approach. He stepped a few feet away from the boys, his gaze hard and unwavering. He held the hockey stick in front of him, the tip of it ticking into the ground. His body was tense. He spoke, his voice cold and deadly. Jungkook, you did wrong, he said, his gaze fixed on the boys. Everyone knows I can't stand seeing even a single tear in her eyes, but you made her cry hard. Those tears burn me. He stepped closer, the hockey stick still in his grip, and now you are going to pay the consequences. His words were filled with a dangerous promise, a warning of what was to come. His men watched with grim expression, knowing that their boy was going to take his anger out on the two boys. One of the boys suddenly burst into tears, pleading and sobbing. Please forgive us, he cried desperately. We didn't know who she was. We were just playing. Please spare us. We won't do anything like that again, we promise. His expression did not change as he spoke. Jungkook, it's too late, he said coldly. You should have thought about the consequences before messing with her. With a swift move, he hit the boy with that hockey stick. making him cry in pain. He did this with other one also. He doesn't want to kill them because his fiance don't appreciate it. But the but he beat the shit out of them because he's known for his ruthlessness. After making them unconscious, like they were barely holding on, he turned to his men, his kiss still cold. Jungkook, tell their parents where they are, he said, and make them bring them to the hospital if they want them to survive. He left the unconscious boy behind without paying them another glance. He walked out of the parking area and made his way back to his office room. His expression remained cold and distant. He entered the office room and saw her still asleep on the couch. He walked over to her, his expression more gentle than earlier. He lifted her up carefully into his arms and adjusted her position so that she was comfortable. He settled down on the couch, lying one against his chest. He said to Siri to switch off the lights. Jungkook, Siri turned off the lights. The room plugged into darkness. Only a thin he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss on to her puffy eyelid. Jungkook, sweet dreams, love, he murmured. He then leaned back against the couch, wrapping her in his arm, and closed his own eyes, drifting off to sleep with Ryan in his arms.